Hello and welcome back to the Badass Literature Society, where badasses come together to rate and review novels recommended by you. Hi, I'm Michael.
This is Barbara.
I'm Lauren.
This month we read The Lost Girls of Hollow Lake by Rebekah Faubion. Rebekah Faubion is a queer author and screenwriter living in Los Angeles. Her books include the YA dark speculative thriller that we read, Lost Girls of Hollow Lake, sapphic rom-coms, The Lovers and The Sun and the Moon, and her adult horror debut, What a Nightmare, releasing October 13th, 2026 from Berkeley Pub. She enjoys reading tarot, binging horror novels way past her bedtime, thinking up places to bury the body for the plot, of course.
That's the best author bio I think we've had.
I know.
Honestly.
I loved
For
it.
the
I loved
plot.
her author bio. For the plot, of course. Barbara, would you like to tell us a little bit about The Lost Girls of Hollow Lake?
Yes. This was originally published on January 27 of 2026. The genre are horror, YA, thriller. Depending on the version of you have, it's 384 pages, and it currently has a 3.65 on Goodreads, 4 on Amazon, and 4 on Fable. It has not been nominated for any awards at the time of this recording, and we think it's important for readers to know what, if any, representation is in the book's release. So for this book, there are main and supporting BIPOC characters, main and supporting LGBTQ plus characters, and main and supporting characters with disabilities.
I feel like this one got an unfair Goodreads.
Yeah, I'm not sure what.
We'll get to that later, but I feel like that's low. But
Yeah, especially because of the other ones are like on par with each other, and then there's Goodreads.
Right.
So I'm curious to know what the heck happened there.
Somebody got mad at the author and spammed it. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Probably.
Never know. Yeah. Lauren, you want to give us the little back of the book for some context?
Yes. After a group of teens visits a dangerous island where 3 are left behind, the surviving girls realize they must return to confront the sinister force hunting them. This dark YA thriller is perfect for fans of Yellowjackets. 8 were lost, 5 were found. None will ever be free. For Evie Williams, life is about to get a lot more complicated. Haunted by the events of a school trip to Hollow Lake National Park that went disastrously wrong, Evie and her friends return changed, their lives forever marked by the mysterious island they encountered and the 3 girls they left behind. Now, someone is picking off those who were involved one by one. Their families, friends, and even online investigators are all caught in a deadly game. The stakes are raised when Evie receives a chilling, we never did fill that word in, to save her loved ones.
Chilling message.
A chilling message.
I actually copied this from Goodreads again, and it's still missing it.
Dang,
chilling
dude,
message.
you didn't learn your lesson from last time.
The stakes are raised when Evie receives a chilling message to save her loved ones. She must return to the island. As Evie and the other lost girls navigate the treacherous terrain of the island once more, they must confront the secrets they've buried, the horrors they witnessed, and the person or thing that's hunting them. But some secrets refuse to stay hidden, and the island demands a price for freedom.
Dun, dun, dun. Just me? I'm the only one doing it this time? All right, that's fine.
I said it, but I was on mute.
Oh.
Yep.
So, what do you guys think, or what did you guys think about Lost Girls of Hollow Lake? And remember, no spoilers.
I really enjoyed this one. I liked the one thing I'm going to say is I thought it was too short. I would have been happy with a lot more, but maybe because it's a horror, like you don't want to drag it out type thing. So maybe that's the point. But I really enjoyed the characters. I kind of wanted to know a little bit more about the characters, especially like the side characters. I liked the overall plot and focus of. I don't want to get obviously in spoilery territory here, but I enjoyed the whodunit and the island as a whole, because I feel like the island itself is a character as well. So yeah, I thought the pacing was really good. I didn't have any issues with the pacing at all. It was really just like bam bam bam. I feel like my only issue is just I kind of wanted more, and I felt like the ending was a bit abrupt for me.
So I also really liked this one. I had not heard of it before Lauren and Barbara both had it on their books to be excited about in 2026 list that we did. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good story. I guess unlike Barbara, thought it was the perfect length. I think that it got its story told. It was thoroughly creepy. The only thing I said maybe more of was a little bit more on the characters, because there were some that were interesting that we didn't get a whole lot of background on. But overall, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed most all of this one. I was obviously we won't talk about individual reviews yet, but I overall Thought it was good. I thought the pacing was good. I liked the characters. I liked the creepiness and the aspects of suspense.
So obviously we're not going to go into our individual ratings for now. Got to wait till the end for that. But our group score for this book was an 8.5 out of 10. So would you recommend Lost Girls of Hollow Lake? I think for me it's a safe yes for everybody. I think that it's, unless you like hate anything that's scary, I guess, at all, then no. But for anybody else, yeah, I think it's not like a heavy horror. It's not super gory or anything like that. I think that it's something that I could safely recommend to most people. It's easy to read. It reads fast, not because it's short, but just because I feel like the chapters are like the perfect length. And when you get to the end, you're like, I got to read another one. I want to know what comes next. So I really enjoyed it, and I think I would recommend it to pretty much everybody.
I concur. I would recommend it. I think it can appeal to a wide variety of readers. Like Michael said, as long as you're not like totally horror-verse. It's not super like, I don't know, not Stephen King level horror, but it's creepy and has some descriptive aspects of scaries. But I think that it could appeal to people who like mystery or psychological thriller, but it could also appeal to like the campy group where it's like very, the YA campy type. I don't know. I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I feel like this is an easy recommendation unless you really don't like the horror genre, in which case like don't pick up any books, I guess, that are horror themed, But like if you like that type of book, then definitely would recommend this. I would say though, for YA, I think, because I know some people, like, I don't feel this way, but I know other people do. I do think it's a little, I wouldn't say gory. It's a little, what is the word
Like
we're looking for
intense
here?
or
I wouldn't say intense. Detailed in the,
with like the violence type stuff.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
say it's a little more detailed, but like, so this is, I would say this is YA upper, because it's like you're dealing with characters that are 17-18 year olds, so just, I guess, keep that in mind. It's not like the younger YA, it's definitely for the older YA. Outside of that, I definitely would recommend it. It's a quick read, like, I really enjoyed it. There's interesting all around. So yeah, I wouldn't have a problem recommending this unless you just truly don't like horror aspect books, in which case, yeah, makes sense. It's not for everyone.
I will be honest on the YA aspect of it. I was surprised to learn that it was YA after reading it. I would not have described it that way. I didn't know that before, or if I did, I didn't remember it. And so when I
Yeah.
was going through and putting together the notes and filling in the genres, and I saw YA, I was like, really? Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely not
interesting.
like your typical YA. It reads older.
I think
Yeah,
it's more like, what's
it's
the
more,
other term? Like new adult?
I wouldn't consider new
Yeah, like
adult.
no.
No, because like I feel like new adult is, there's like a, well, maybe there's like a stigma to it. Like, it's definitely more graphic, and I don't think this one's not as. I
There's a
would say
few
this is like a,
graphic scenes, but that's about it.
right. Like, this would be like a heavy PG-13, because like sometimes
Mm,
you get like, PG-13s, and then other times like, oh, like, I feel like, I don't know. So I would, yeah, I don't know, because it's definitely older, but it's not like graphic and anything else but
yeah,
the horror aspect of it.
yeah, that makes sense. I understand what you're saying. So for those of you leaving us at this point, don't forget to give us a rating if you like us. Super helpful for us to get our podcast seen, and also always good to get feedback. And make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram. Our handle is at Badass Lit Pod in both places. We would love to hear from you. If you've got a book you want us to read, let us know. Now, Lauren is going to give us a short preview of our next episode. Next month, we will be reading Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman.
The apocalypse will be televised. A man, his ex-girlfriend's cat, a sadistic game show unlike anything in the universe, a dungeon crawl where survival depends on killing your prey in the most entertaining way possible. In a flash, every human-erected construction on Earth, from Buckingham Palace to the tiniest of sheds, collapses in a heap, sinking into the ground. The buildings and all the people inside have all been atomized and transformed into the dungeon, an 18-level labyrinth filled with traps, monsters, and loot. A dungeon so enormous it circles the entire globe. Only a few dare venture inside, but once you're in, you can't get out. And what's worse, each level has a time limit. You have but days to find a staircase to the next level down, or it's game over. In this game, it's not about your strength or your dexterity. It's about your followers, your views, your clout. It's about building an audience and killing those goblins with style. You can't just survive here, you gotta survive big. You gotta fight with vigor, with excitement. You gotta make them stand up and cheer. And if you do have that it factor, you may just find yourself with a following. That's the only way to truly survive in this game, with the help of the loot boxes dropped upon you by the generous benefactors watching from across the galaxy. They call it Dungeon Crawler World, but for Carl, it's anything but a game.
Carol.
I'm excited for this one. Remember, the second part of this episode is going to be an in-depth look at Lost Girls of Hollow Lake. So if you do want to read it, stop listening now and come back and listen to the second half when you are done. Now, for those of you sticking around for the spoilers, here we go. So we'll start off like we always start off. Who are we nominating for the Badass Character Award? Barbara, who is your nominee?
Obviously, Tiger.
The dog.
And if you don't know who Tiger is, it's the dog.
Checks out.
He was such a brave boy. Such a brave boy. No, but if I can't pick Tiger, if we're like doing humans only, this is hard because like we fought Evie is for the most part, I would say 92% of the book is first person Evie's perspective.
Yeah, the only chapters that aren't are when it's the killer's perspective.
Well, no. We get a couple, so we get not the killer's perspective, actually, we get their soon to be dead person that they're murdering's perspective.
That's right. It's perspective of the
victim.
To be victim. Yeah.
Yes. So we get in its third person victim's perspective, and then we get 2 chapters of Tiger. But so yeah, so it's hard to like gauge that outside of that. So if not for Evie, which is the most obvious choice, I would say maybe Sunny, because I feel like she's the most level-headed of the group of all of them. Her and Gabby. So I don't know. It's a toss-up. Tiger.
I just know Barbara was sitting there reading those Tiger chapters, thinking like, "You son of a, you better not hurt this doggy."
I would have been raging
concerned.
like Evie.
I was concerned.
If that had happened, I feel like Barbara would have texted Lauren and I and said, "I'm done. I'm not finishing this book. I'm not
finishing it. It's a DNF."
Exactly. You don't hurt Tiger.
Okay, my Badass Character Award nomination is Evie. Evie is, by all definitions, a badass. Absolutely a badass. We'll get into why later, because there's lots of questions about her since she's the main character, but that's my nomination for Badass Character.
I, too, nominated Evie because I didn't think we could nominate a dog. So, congrats, Evie.
Special mention to Tiger. You're a good boy.
Yes, shout out Tiger, the good boy.
Yes, the goodest boys. The goodest boy.
Let's get into our character discussion before we get into our discussion questions. So our first character is Evie, our main character. Barbara, would you like to talk about her?
Sure. Evie is kind of a rebel without a cause. I actually don't know. It's her dad was a policeman before the whole tragic island synapses happened. So, and she just kind of has like I don't give an F attitude about life in general. I feel like she plays it off as being really like this badass she thinks and cool character, but like internally I don't feel like she is, to be honest. But she definitely so let me rephrase that. She knows who she is, and she is not afraid of anyone judging her for it, which I find an amazing trait to find in a 17-year-old, because like normally at that age you're just like, what am I? Like, who do I want to be? And she knows exactly who she is, and she doesn't give a crap about what anyone says. She is definitely an interesting character to follow. At times you kind of are like, what girl, what are you doing? But once again, it makes sense. You're a 17-year-old who went through something extremely drastic, and like girl has PTSD, so it makes sense that she's pushing everyone away. And my favorite aspect of Evie is literally her bond with Tiger. Like, I absolutely, as someone who loves my animals like they are my children, it was really interesting to see that in a book, because I feel like it's a rare kind of thing to see. But I think Evie is a good level of strength and vulnerability. She just doesn't know how to show that other side of her. She only shows it to Sunny. Hee hee.
Well, speaking of Sunny, that's the next character on the list.
I got you, fam.
That was a nice transition. Sunny Park, I believe was her full name,
Yes.
is a Korean American cheerleader who is the romantic interest of our main character, Evie.
Mhm.
Even though they both are trying to keep it very secret at the beginning. Their relationship on the island, I feel like, was like the shiny, glowing, like happy space and all, because the island chapters were all very, very dark, and there was
Yeah.
like this one little light, which was their relationship. I really enjoyed their relationship. I know I always talk about it in this podcast, so I don't like romance, and I liked this one because I feel like it wasn't like super in your face. It was cute. It added to the story. I really liked their chemistry together, and just like the progression you got, like from bouncing back and forth and seeing like the beginning of their relationship, and then after the island, they clearly parted ways, but then seeing them come back together as to to solve the mystery of what's going on at the end. It was good. I really like Sunny. I liked her with Evie.
You didn't really describe her. You described her relationship with Evie.
I know, I sure
For
did.
shame. Sunny is a original person, Michael.
It was a
Put some
cute
res-
relationship,
put
though.
some respect on that.
Would you have anything else you'd like to add about Sunny, Barbara,
Yeah,
that
so
I
I
didn't
feel
that I
like
didn't hit?
Sunny is Evie's foil. Like Evie is hot. I would say she's hot-headed, action
Absolutely.
first, think later type of a character, whereas Sunny is the complete opposite. She's extremely calm headed, level headed. Like I don't know if I mentioned this outside of the book or outside of the book, outside of the podcast, but like she's the one of the most level headed of the group of the girls that are on the island. I feel like outside of like Gabby, maybe, and she is extremely smart, and she, like, when there's a crisis, like, I feel like she's the one that everyone kind of leans towards to be like, okay, what are we doing? Which is ironic because, like, there's a lot of, I feel like, the girls on the island who are like, oh, I'm the boss and I know what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. But I've noticed during the chapters, like, the default is always to look at Sunny and be like, oh, like, what are we actually doing? Like, she's the pseudo leader of the group, I feel like. That's, I feel, describing Sunny kind of, sort of.
That was a good extra description of Sunny. I appreciate it. Sunny also has a lot of love for Evie's dog, Tiger,
Yes.
who Lauren will talk about now.
Tiger is the goodest boy.
Mm-hmm.
Tiger is the dog. I don't know how else to elaborate on Tiger. He was a brave boy, and I would have cried if he died.
Yes.
I
Love the
think
bond.
I loved Tiger's chapters. I don't think I've ever read a book that had a chapter from a dog's perspective. That was
Right.
really interesting. But those chapters, it's a horror book. I understand that, but I was most anxious reading Tiger's chapters because I was like, whoever this bad person is, they better not hurt Tiger.
I know, right?
And there were times where he was scared, and I was like, oh no, I'm scared too for Tiger.
I know.
I don't know, though. Barbara likes to recommend me books that are going to have the dog die and then make me cry.
I would. What?
Barbara's like, I want you
One
to
of
feel
the
pain.
very first books.
The
that
Art of
Barbara-
Racing the
as-
Rain
as
is an
an
amazing
aside,
book.
It is an amazing book. It was like Barbara's first recommendation to me in our relationship. And I bawled, and I'm like, who is this chick, and why does she want me to cry?
It's
Why-
a great
why does she
novel.
want me to
You're
cry?
welcome. You're
No,
welcome.
it was amazing. It was a great novel, but also I was not prepared. I was
you
not
know what?
emotionally prepared.
We needed to bond emotionally, and that
We
I
did.
picked that one.
Emotional damage.
Emotional damage.
Gabby is one of the other survivors on the island. She's one of the five, right? Yeah,
The five survivors, yes.
that got
Those
out.
are literally the five. Gabby, Adeline, and Callie are the other three that survived.
I think if we're going off of like the stereotypical characters in this kind of a situation, Gabby is the brains. I think she's the one that orchestrated part of the idea when they got off the island to have this pact of like, this is going to be our story. This is what we're sticking with. This is the truth. Barbara's looking at me like I'm wrong.
That wasn't Gabby at all, but okay.
Then correct me.
Gabby is the artistic one, the one who loves to draw. And honestly, I feel like Gabby was written a little on the neurodivergent side. I definitely see, like, she's calm like Sunny, but in a one person. What is that? What is when you say like 1 degree away from that? Like, she's very disconnected when it comes to that. Sunny can empathize with people. I feel like Gabby has trouble with that, but she's extreme. She's the extremely observant one. Like, she's the wallflower that no one really notices, but she's extremely observant, like to a T, very observant. So she just knows what's going on because people tend to ignore her, and so she's left to kind of like people are themselves around her because they just don't think she's a threat. And
Mhm.
honestly, I think that's she uses that to her advantage. She's the one who wrote or drew everything that happened to them on the island. She's the Mexican American, like her family owns the hotel. That's Gabby. She's really like she is very like docile. Like she's I feel like the one who befriended everyone, who didn't have a problem with anyone, you know, like
Yeah.
she's the one who is friendly with everyone and is just the chill one in that aspect.
No, I think that's right. She's the one that had the field guide, right? That helped them
Yes.
identify the
Yes, the
stuff when
shrooms and
they,
stuff.
yeah, the various
Because she
things they
was,
could
I
eat.
mean, she took the field guide and like drew all over it.
Right, because that's where her sketches were in. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's Gabby.
Okay, and then Adeline is next. Adeline is one of a set of twins, her twin sister
Hmm.
Blake. Very headstrong, very competitive with her sister. They were, if I remember correctly, like competing for the valedictorian spot
Right,
at their school. They wanted to be the best at everything, and in a lot of things, they were the best at everything.
right.
Um, it it was very interesting. Their dynamic, I thought, as twins was different than other twin dynamics that I've read in books, and also different than other like twins that I knew
Mm.
in real life. But I thought it was well written. I guess this is the spoiler section, so we can also say that Adeline is also the killer.
Yeah, she's the killer outside of the island.
Correct. Yeah, she's the one who's killing people in modern times. There's two timelines in this book,
Right.
so she's the killer in modern times.
She,
Um,
I would say, so she always feels like she's second best with Blake. Like she's constantly competing with Blake, but she can't ever catch up with Blake. And that's her literally her driving force in the whole story and why I mean like you said, we're in the spoiler section. So like once they get in the island, a couple of the girls go something happens to them. The book doesn't really describe it. Your sister and I were talking, we think it was more of a like a possession type thing, and that's why they went a little cray cray, and she didn't, but then after she lost Blake she did type thing. So it's like she lost that
yeah,
will that she had because it was her sister that was driving her because of the competitive nature that they had of their relationship. Like at one point we get her chapter and she even mentions like pretty sure her parents would have like if they could have picked, even though they would never have said it out loud, they would have preferred Blake surviving and not Adeline. Like Adeline
that
is
was
the
so
second
sad.
choice for everyone. Right. And she's always I feel like she's always played second fiddle to her sister. And when
Mhm.
she lost her sister, she literally lost like everything that drove her because
She
she
lost her
just
purpose.
right, yeah, yeah. Like she wanted to best like I know like Evie because keep in mind we are getting Evie's perspective of these characters, and Evie's not a huge fan of the twins. She begrudgingly admits that they're like really good at stuff, and I would say Adeline is the smartest one in the group because she's the one that they turn to, like, oh, do you know how to boil water safely? And then they'll turn to her and she's like, oh, do you know how to like do this, this, and this? And she's the one that like say, and she's the smartest one. I think is just like I have a feeling that she kind of held herself back because she realized her role in the relationship with her sister. I feel like I don't know if you caught like if that's kind of what you got.
I got that vibe a little bit more so after when we finally get her perspective at the end,
Mhm.
and learn that like that was really like the driving force behind
Mhm.
everything that she did, and the heartbreaking also like that she started killing people because she got convinced that if she did like make
It
these
would bring her
sacrifices
sister
that it would
back.
bring her
Yeah.
sister back.
Yeah. It's like learning that she was the killer, learning the motivation of why she did all this is like it's one of those where I can definitely empathize with the killer. Like it makes you really sad to like why she was doing all this was literally to just bring back her sister.
Yeah, which was just like I said, just heartbreaking. Our next character is Callie, and Lauren, do you want to talk a little bit about Callie?
Yes, refresh my memory again.
She's the swimmer.
Oh, so I didn't really feel like she had a huge role,
I mean,
did she?
yeah, she's I would say she's the reason on the island why they discovered how the island worked because she went out to swim and almost drowned,
Okay.
and the mad woman was like trying to
And the
claim
mad woman
her,
was
and
trying
that
to
was
get
her
her.
sacrifice, and then they got stuff out of it, and I feel like that was like, they were a little like, how does this island work? And then when that happened to her, that's when they are like, at least Evie and like I feel like Sunny, maybe even Gabby put it together, or maybe even Adeline, I can't remember who did. Oh, we have to give something up for the island to give something that we want.
Yes, I had forgotten that she was the one that got the NDE.
Yeah, and twice, because then obviously she almost gets stabbed by Adeline. Although I feel like, do we think she was actually trying to kill Callie or just scaring her?
I think she was trying to kill her.
I think she was trying to kill her because I feel like she was so deranged by that point that like, I don't know that she was at like a phase of like just being able to just like freak someone. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. I think I really enjoyed Callie and Gabby's relationship. They were like really good friends, and the island brought them like closer together, and they definitely had each other's backs.
This whole book did a good job of like girlhood.
Like, 100%
portrayals. Like, I know that's not the question, but I feel I felt like that's what it. I don't know, girlhood vibes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Let's see. Our next character combined together, Bryn and Bill. Bryn and Bill have like a paranormal YouTube channel where they go and they do like supernatural like hunts to try to figure out and investigations, try to figure out the supernatural things. Bryn is psychic, I think is the right word, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say she's got like feelers, like
some sort of like like vibes or whatever.
Premonition, not premonition, but yeah,
ESP.
like that. Yeah.
And Bill is he's the cameraman. He's the guy behind the camera. Her hubby. I thought they were an interesting addition to the future or the current times part of the story. That they're there trying to figure out, do like some rogue journalism, figuring out what's going on, what happened at Hollow Lake, especially after the body washes up. But that's a little bit about them. And then finally, I'll let Barbara wrap us up on the characters with the missing girls.
Yeah, so like the book said, there's 8 girls that go in and only 5 come out of the island. We don't necessarily know if they died or not. Megan's the first one that we learn about that is dead, and they find her body and kind of puts the whole thing in motion of what's going on. And we learn about what happened in the island was that Megan was the one that kind of went crazy in the first place. Like literally like the second day, she starts seeing things. She messes up she cuts up her leg pretty bad. And she's literally, since the second day, isn't like, they mentioned like she just kind of has like this glassy look in her eye. So depending on how you see the island, either she was possessed or it drove her crazy-esque was what happened to Megan. Vivian is the like queen bitch of the group. She thinks she is. She's the daughter of the governor, or the mayor. Sorry, the mayor. She's the daughter of the mayor. She pretty much thinks she's the leader, but like none of the girls like her. Like I don't think anyone likes Vivian except for Blake, but only as a competitive. I don't really see them as actual true friends.
They labeled themselves as best friends, right?
Right. They would more than easily like stab each other in the back if they really wanted to, type relationship of quote unquote best friends. And she's the one that Blake and Megan sacrificed that allow them to leave the island, since the island wants like something from them. She actually didn't go crazy. She was a victim, essentially. And then Blake is obviously Adeline's twin sister. She's the one who's always in first with everything else. She's the reason they actually went to the island in the first place, even though everyone blames poor Evie and it had nothing to do with it.
I thought it was Evie.
No, it's Blake. Blake is like, so they're talking about it and none of them want to mention like they can all hear something except for Megan. Megan's the only one who doesn't hear anything.
I thought Evie was the one, like the POV that we were getting where she was like super curious and like wanted to go and like.
It's Blake. Blake is the one
Blake was definitely the driving force.
Yeah, she was like, hey, like we're all hearing stuff, we're going. And she kind of turns to Evie, and I think Evie was the one who kind of dictated whether they went or not. Like Blake suggested it, said we're going, looked to Evie. Evie would have been like, we're not going. Then I don't think any of them would have gone. She's the one who's like, yeah, I want to know. So they all went. Because
she was curious too.
Yeah. So, and that's like, Blake is kind of like, she thinks she's the head of everything, but I feel like she's not. She's definitely the meanest, I feel like, out of all of them. She's definitely the bully. once again, we are seeing everything through Evie's perspective, but still, like, Blake definitely seemed like a bitch.
A little bit of mean girl vibes.
Yeah.
And our actual final character now, I'll let Lauren talk about the island itself.
Oh, I just feel like the island has a mind of its own.
100%
Needs to be like included. Like, well, and the Mad Woman
is
is.
included.
Do we feel like the Mad Woman is part of the island essentially? Like,
I mean, that's what it was implied at the end. Like, the island is the Mad Woman, the Mad Woman is
right?
the
They're kind
island.
of
Like,
one in the
they're in a
same.
symbiotic
Correct.
relationship. I feel like.
Yeah.
Like, the
That
island's
was
the
the
one
vibe
that
I got
drives
also.
them in here, and the Mad Woman's the one that makes them like do things, I guess. Like, that's an interesting like relationship that they have.
And Barbara and I were talking about whether or not we felt that the Mad Woman was actually like something that they were seeing, or was it just like a kind of
In
like
their
a
head.
feeling or in their head, or like, and I personally feel like it was an actual, like, is it called, would it be called like an apparition? Like if you could see it, everybody,
Spectre?
or I don't know.
Is that
I'm
the
not
right
good
word?
with,
Like a
Yeah, Spectre.
yeah.
specter?
I felt like they were for sure seeing something because they were all seeing like the same, characteristics or whatever. And the Mad Woman, it's also kind of sad because like I feel like she's also stuck there.
Yeah.
And it's like, not that I have empathy necessarily, but yeah, I felt like that the whole thing is a kind of a mind, we can't say that word, it's a mind F.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the, I would say, character of the island, because it definitely, like, we get enough for us to be curious, but I definitely wanted more, but I understand why we don't get more, because then that kind of like defeats the purpose of this mysterious thing, like this entity. Like, all of them hear something. It's like literally the driving force. Like, the island is wooing them to come to the island, and it's like this whole thing that everyone knows, the whole town knows about the island, and you're not supposed to listen to the island, and only certain people can see the island, not everyone can see the island. Like, this is this whole interesting aspect of like why certain people can see the island, why certain people can't, and like why do certain people and that's the whole thing. Like, they were all hearing something, like either it was like mute, like it talking to them, or music. Some of them heard like as a music. I think Gabby mentioned something about like colors, because she's like the artistic one. So it all kind of like catered to the what piques their
It draws
interest,
them, yeah, drawing them
draws
in.
them into, except for Megan. And I'm very curious to know like why Megan was the only one who didn't. Like, Evie originally thought it was because she's not originally from this town, she moved in later, but then Sunny isn't either, but she didn't hear. But I think what Evie mentioned was Sunny hadn't heard anything until they did their like late night swimming, and then Evie saw it, and so then like by default Sunny saw it. So it could just be like a thing for the townspeople, and that's why she didn't. But it's interesting that she's the one who went crazy first.
Yeah, because she was the only one. I mean, I wonder if it's the island's way of like, oh, I'm gonna make you notice me kind of thing.
Right.
Since, like,
very interesting. Like, the whole island as a whole was just an interesting. I wanted to know more, but once again, I get the mystery behind it would have been like ruined, but I definitely wanted more about the island. Like, was the Mad Woman the first person that the island wooed, and then she got stuck there, and then
Interesting.
turned into like I said, like this symbiotic relationship?
My thought was
like,
that like she got, the island took her and she was an actual person at one point, and now she's just stuck
working.
So the
Yeah,
island
because
just
like,
took her like a long time ago then?
yeah, because like they
that's my
mentioned like the
thought.
island wants them to stay there, and it's like they're not necessarily like their soul is stuck there forever type thing if you die there, and then it's like you're feeding like this beast type thing, and it's never
I felt like
like
it was an
sated.
original, like she was the OG victim is what
Yeah,
my thought.
I think that's how I thought
my
it
lore
too.
was like, she's the OG victim, she got stuck there, and
Made
now
a deal
she's
with the devil.
Right, now she's trying to essentially not survive, but like play
keep
out
more people with her.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I didn't think about that. Things to think about. Anyway, let's move on to our discussion questions. First one we've got is, how did your perception of the Hollow Lake girls change from the beginning of the book to the end? Did you find the supernatural elements were a metaphor for real life issues, or did they stand on their own as a horror element?
So do you mean like the perception of the Hollow Lake girls, like the girls or the book?
The girls.
Okay, so it was interesting because, like I said, we get all of Evie's perspective of the other girls. So it's definitely biased towards how Evie feels about the other girls. So she's obviously going to paint like Sunny in a good light. She doesn't have a bad relationship with Gabby or Callie. And then the other girls she's not a fan of. So you definitely get like a biased look into how they are as humans. I kind of wish we would have gotten a little bit more of the other girls, but it is what it is. The one thing that I would say I wasn't a huge fan of was the how we were introduced to the other girls. It literally was just like a little like paragraph of who they were as a character instead of showing us who they were. She told us, and that's the only little gripe I have of about the book as a whole is like she definitely just told us who they were instead of letting the book explain how the characters were, if that makes sense. A perception, I don't know, I guess that's kind of I mean, gosh, going through all of that of course is going to give you PTSD, especially at 17 years old. Like did I find, so I think it's both. I think the supernatural elements were a metaphor for both. I think it was both the horror element and stood on its by itself, and I think that's the blending. Like the island as it's sit was like supernatural. I truly do feel like that was actually happening to them. And then we come to the real world and you see how like that stuff on the island is just a metaphor of what actually happens to women in general, I feel like, in society. So I think it was a cool way to show that, you know? So I would say it would be both. At least that's how I felt for me.
I think I'd agree with that last part you said about it kind of being both the supernatural and the not. And I think that was intentional to show like while they're on the island, it's like this looming real supernatural threat. And then when they're off the island, it's like, oh, maybe it's, just this metaphor for, like you said, everything that these girls have gone through. As far as my perception as to did it change, I think it did. And I think that and I had another question about this, and I was like, you know what? I think I can talk about this during this first question, so I cut it. But I think my perception changed because, like Barbara mentioned earlier in the podcast, 90% of this book is from Evie's POV, and I think at some point, like halfway through the book, I had this thought, and I was like, what if Evie is an unreliable narrator? And and then you get that's what I was getting. So then you get a little bit further, and you're like, it's like, holy crap! Like, no, she is an unreliable narrator. And so then you have to sit there and be like, hold on, then like all of my perspective is all just through her lens. And so I think at that point my perspective shifted a lot when I realized that Evie was such an unreliable narrator. And then I got excited because I love unreliable narrators and stories. I think it makes for a really interesting aspect of what's going on. So yeah, absolutely. My perspective was warped by that. And I think that shifted. Like, I think I had some more negative feelings towards some of the girls that then shifted once I realized that, okay, well, maybe Evie just didn't like these girls.
Oh, 100%.
And that's why, they are painted in this way. So that aspect is really interesting. And also the evolution of Evie's perspective too, from Lost on the Island and current time was interesting, like the dichotomy.
That's why I wish we got more of like who these girls were to each other before, because you don't really know why Evie hates them. Like she just mentions like
right.
relationship stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like she just, like I said, in that little blurb of like who these characters are, she just mentions like Megan's rich and she loves being called the bitch. Like she applauds that and all this other stuff, but it's like why, or like why do you feel that way? Like why do you hate Blake so much? Is it just because she's rubs in people's faces that she's a mean person and she's always winning and she likes to gloat? Like I just want a little bit more of that so I can paint a better picture of to why Evie feels this way about certain characters, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like you guys covered most of it. I feel like I agree with Barb. I agree with aspects of both of you. I found my perception changed from I think like they started out, okay, they're just curious teenagers, whatever. Then I viewed them more as like victims of the island, like, oh my goodness, like they're all, the supernatural stuff, and like it's nobody's fault, nobody like is doing anything sinister, to then seeing like, okay, well shit, they're really not that much victims, like things happened that we didn't know about, and like actually some of them are perpetrators and not victims. And so I think my perspective shifted in that way. But I feel like the supernatural elements, I mean, don't we find out that some of them aren't really that supernatural?
What part?
Like just the fact that, well, I guess just like because they thought that the people were being taken necessarily or murdered by the island when really it was not. 'Twas Adeline the whole time.
Well, it was Adeline for some of these cases that are happening right now, but what about all the other people that have gone
Yeah.
missing
But did we
previously?
ever confirm that they were missing from, I mean, I don't know. Like we don't get enough information about
There's
the
some
other
No,
ambiguity
people.
no.
for there. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So how much of it is like this, maybe there's something in the air in the island that makes you go mad and then that's why.
Yeah, I think it's definitely left up to interpretation for us to decide whether
Yeah,
the island does something to people or if it's themselves. If it is a
right.
supernatural element, like truly supernatural, or if it's just you
That's what
go
I'd never really landed on.
crazy.
Like, yeah, is this actually like something, or is it a combination? Like, if you're susceptible to the super, like you're more sensitive to like
Right.
those sorts of things, and then you're more liable to, I
Do
guess,
that. I
be
mean,
manipulated.
right. Eva even mentions it in like the second to last chapter. I think she's like now she finally understood like why some of them crazy or some of them she didn't say crazy like why some of them lost it and then why some of them didn't is because of the will like having something that grounds you to the
Right.
like having something like whether that be her parents, Tiger, Sunny, whatever. Like all of them had that. Whereas the two girls that did it and then Adeline lost hers was like they just didn't have like it's not like a will to live. It's literally just like
No,
something that grounded them to like the real world, I
reality.
would say,
Right. Like to
versus to
reality.
reality versus like the supernatural thing.
Yeah. There's definitely like a lot of question marks for me, but I felt like it was all really well done, if that counts for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It does. Many stories featuring a quote unquote cursed location involve a town that looks the other way. How did the residents of Shady Cove contribute to the cycle of disappearances? Did you find any of them particularly sympathetic, or were they all equally quote unquote guilty? I enjoy this trope in horror where there's like this like cursed thing and the town knows about the cursed thing but just chooses to like ignore it because like no, if I don't look at it, it won't hurt me, kind of a thing. And that's definitely that is what leans me more into the supernatural for this is that there's something there, at least to the extent that the town knows that there's these disappearances happening and no one can really explain why or what's happening, where are these people disappearing to. And so that leans towards the supernatural and leans towards this curse. I don't think necessarily the residents contributed to it. I don't think they, it wasn't like oh there's tons of stories like this, but there was an episode of Supernatural where there's a small town that's like luring people into this field to be sacrificed to their like
Oh,
pagan
damn.
god Scarecrow. That's not what was happening here, right? They weren't luring outsiders in to sacrifice them to the island. So I don't think they're not contributing to it. I think maybe there is some quote unquote guilt there because they're not doing anything about it either. And
Right. They're complicit.
the vibe was that they kind of take ignorance as bliss to a whole nother level, right? Like they don't want to know about it, they don't want to think about it. It's just whatever. That's over there. No, we don't talk about that. Let's go to the festival. To the point that Evie's dad, who was the sheriff when the girls disappeared, literally gets ousted in his job because he wants to investigate what's going on here. And the town is like, oh no, we don't want that. Like, new sheriff, get out. And now he's a where he's like he works as like a line cook at a restaurant or a
Yeah.
diner or something now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think in that way the town is complicit because they're so scared of whatever it is that they just want to pretend it's not happening. And in that way I think that they're all equally guilty.
And are there some parallels we can draw on that to current times, possibly? That's a whole other soapbox. Anywho, I think the town is complicit in the sense that they are not doing anything about it, and like they clearly know that people are going missing, and they're not doing anything. But I feel like the real world example of this, and it may not really be real, but like I don't know if you guys have heard of like the whole lore around the which national forest is it? Like in Tennessee or whatever, like the Creep Smoky Mountain, whatever lore, where it's like if you are in the woods at night and you hear a whistle, no you didn't, or if you hear your name, like no you didn't, like just ignore it, because like they believe in that like cultural whatever, that if you interact with the thing, you're like inviting it, and then like you
Never
can,
heard
it's
of
like
this.
super duper dangerous, and like
Oh,
and
there's
the
so many
whole,
stories like that about the
yeah, and like
Appalachians.
it's like a whole cultural thing there. So I wonder how much of this could be like the residents are of that mindset where it's like, no, if you don't ignore it, you are in danger. And I wish I could remember more details about, like, maybe Michael can Google it real quick so we can provide our listeners with some context that's not just Lauren ranting. But I feel like it's kind of, it reminds me of that, where it's like, oh, you know, if you hear your name being called from the forest, like no you didn't, like just ignore it and go about your business, because if you react or act like you heard it, then like you're inviting the danger, and like it's like a whole thing. So my mindset was like, how much of this is this community just really doesn't want to dick with it, doesn't want to investigate, like it's a unknown thing and they don't want to like risk it, versus they have maybe tried to interact with it and investigate in the past years and like it didn't go well, so now they're like, no, we can't interact with it at all, we have to pretend it doesn't exist or else it's gonna amplify. So yeah, I don't know what your
To
thoughts
answer
are
your
on that,
question,
but
Lauren, it's Appalachian folklore about
Appalachian folklore,
an
yes.
entity called the Whistler.
Yeah,
Never heard of
super
that.
creepy. Yeah, so like I didn't know how much of it was maybe that sort of vibe versus them just, you know, I don't know. But either way, they're kind of complicit, because like I feel like there should be maybe like signs or something around, like warning people of that, if that's like a cultural thing that they're, you know, I don't know.
So if I'm not mistaken, Evie does mention that they actually have tried looking into it, and everyone who has tried looking into it has disappeared. So the town actually
Okay,
has tried. Like they've
so I
sent
don't really
out,
blame the town then in that
right, yeah,
case.
they sent out books, Jesus. They sent out boats, people on boats. They sent out, I think, like a helicopter at one point, like all these things. They could the helicopter couldn't find the island, and the people on the boat got lost and were never seen again. So it's definitely like the
Yeah,
town definitely tried. It's one of those things, but like,
that's some Appalachian stuff then.
yeah, so they tried, nothing came out of it. They all disappeared or couldn't find anything. So I think after that point they're just like, okay, like it's gonna be we just pretend it's not a thing. We talk about it, it's ghost stories for kids, and then we just be like, okay, like let's please try to ignore it, and whatever you hear you're not supposed to hear and go after it type thing. And I think of course it's Evie who makes the joke that they even have like these little things like, no, don't get this boat to go to island, little sign, but like everyone just ignores it. And she's like, if they really wanted to keep people out of doing this, they would do a better job of it. So I feel
Oh,
like
that's true.
yeah, I feel like so they tried and then they kind of just washed their hands and be like, nah, like it's on you if you want to do this. If they truly wanted to keep people from it, like Evie mentioned, like they would probably have why allow people to go to these like locations on the lake knowing that at any point in time someone's going to disappear? Like let's
Right,
just shut down the lake then, like shut it
right.
down, don't have
Or at
anyone be able to go
minimum,
there.
or
Yeah,
at minimum put up, like, you know, like
the
in
fence.
Florida you got like the alligator signs and fences and things, and it's like if somebody's dumb enough to swim in that lake, okay, but at least there was like ample warning signs.
Right, like just put the fences up, put like all these things up. Like they don't do that either. So it's one of those things where I feel like they tried and they're like, "Okay, well at this point it's on you if you're going to be stupid and do this." And obviously that's how they kind of took it. And then it's one of those things where I think even mentions once again, like they searched for them but not really, because they kind of were like, as once the island takes you, like we don't know what we're gonna do, like you're on your own, kid, figure it out mentality, instead of actually like trying to search for people, because they're like, well, we don't want to try to search for someone and then get lost in the process. So that's you made that bed, now you lie on it.
Looking back, were there any blink and you miss it moments or pieces of foreshadowing that felt much more significant once the truth was finally revealed?
I feel like this one was hard for me when I was looking at it, because with the audiobook especially, I feel like I tend to miss a lot of these things. Like that I when I'm reading a physical book, I'm better at picking out like foreshadowing things versus when it's like an audio processing versus like, I don't know. It's just the way my brain works. So
Mm.
I can't, there's not like any glaring that I can see. I don't know about you guys though.
No, actually, I kind of feel like the way that the novel was written kind of left you out for red herrings throughout the whole book, and it really didn't point too much because we don't know what happened on the island until literally like at the very end. So we don't know that they went a little whatever you want to say, like that the island interfered with them. You know, we get little aspects of like what happened, and you can kind of put your own like, oh, okay, maybe, you know. So it was more of like, I was thinking it was Blake or Megan who was the ones doing all this and not Adeline. And also, I always find it interesting with killers, it's like they have no problem killing like dudes twice their size, because the people that she kills, of is it 4 people that she kills? Of the 4, 3 of them are men. And if I'm not mistaken, Evie says that like they're not like, out of all of them, I think Callie's the tallest and the like most athletic of them all. So like obviously I'm not picturing like little demure Adeline and Blake, but like it's always interesting to me. It's like, okay, like you overpowered these people, so that's why I always think it's like a supernatural element that helps them overpower these people, because unless you have the element of surprise, like you're going to get outmaneuvered as someone who is twice your weight, regardless, or twice your size. Like it doesn't matter unless you're like a super like legit fighter, which we did not get that from them. None of them were like black belts in anything or didn't know any of that. So it's like, I feel like it had to be like a supernatural aspect of it. As far as like foreshadow, I don't know. Like we get mentions of Adeline not being able to sleep. Like it looks like she hadn't slept in days. Like she kind of wasn't really acting like herself. Like we get little tidbits of that, but I wouldn't say there was any huge like little droppings of foreshadowing for her to be the one that was killing them. I think it was more foreshadowing the fact of, I think, the island that was causing them to do this. So it made sense that it would be one of them. I just, honestly, I thought it was going to be one of the 2 girls that went crazy, because it even mentions that while they were leaving very early, they saw like Megan covered in blood, but not hers.
But not her own, yeah.
I also suspected Megan for a while.
Until we found her dead body.
Right.
So, I mean, to answer one of the questions you asked, Barbara, where you said like this woman is, taking down these men that are twice her size. In all of these, with the 2 men especially, she had the element of surprise.
She did.
And if anybody could sneak up behind somebody and slit somebody's throat, and no matter how big they are, it's game over.
Well, sure, for all 3 of them. Like she got their teacher with bees. That was interesting. Like
that was interesting.
Like what the heck? What a creepy thing. Like a lot
terrifying, really.
Right. Like if you think about like the amount of planning that went into this is like chef's kiss, you know? So maybe that's the hint that we should have gotten, because like she is very analytical. She is literally the one who plans everything. She was the one in that group who did that. So maybe that was one of those like, hey, blink and you miss it type aspect. You know, like she's the one who's the smartest one who knows all of these things. But like I said, I feel like the one drawback in the book is like we don't get a lot of that aspect. It's just Evie saying, oh, she's smart. It's like, okay, right. Show me how she is. Show me how, like, because we just got little aspects of how she did. Like, she's the one who made the traps for them to eat.
If there was a blink and you miss it thing, I missed it. The only prediction that I had before the end of this book was, at one point I thought that the killer was Bryn, the psychic who was part of the Supernatural YouTube channel. And it's because of the chapter where her husband gets killed. There's a line at the very end where he says, he brushes against the camo mask, and I realize he gets to say goodbye to Bryn before he goes. And I was like, oh my God, is that him like saying like the mask pulled and he saw his wife? And at first I was like, why would she do that? Then I was like, well, she's a YouTube channel. A bunch of murders are going to make their story go crazy viral on the internet. And so that was my belief until
I just figured they were being possessed. Like, it's not them that's the driving force. It's literally the island like possessing them to do
Because
this
there
thing.
was, and I can't remember, and this is also because I listen and don't read it, but there was one scene where like one of the girls comes out of like being possessed almost,
Yeah,
and
it's
she's like,
Blake.
"What are you talking about?" Yeah,
Yeah, that's why
and
I'm
like
saying, like, I think the
yeah,
island's possessing them because she mentions, like, their eyes glaze over. It looks like they're not there. And it, like, and that happened. She mentions that multiple times that happened with Blake. Didn't. I think the only one that didn't happen was Megan. So I feel like Megan just went crazy just because Megan. But it happened with Blake. It
Yeah.
happened to Bryn and it happened to Adeline. So that's what makes me think like the island was possessing them and that's why they were doing that. Megan was just, I don't know, Megan.
It was just great. All right, moving on to our next question. Evie and the other survivors initially claimed they were simply lost in the woods. Why do you think they chose to hide the truth about the island? Does this secret protect them, or is it what allows the killer to target them later?
This is, I feel like, one of the questions I kept thinking about, and I feel like I didn't get a good enough answer. Why would you hide that fact? Is it because it was supernatural and you can't, like, if you do tell people, they're not going to believe you, so like what is the point? Is that like their reasoning behind it? Because they
or
literally did
because like
nothing
they
wrong.
weren't, or because it was like taboo to go, like because like they knew better, kind of, like,
Well,
so was it like
sure, but like
a
so many people have done that in the past and they're the only ones who survived it. So like why wouldn't you tell people? That's the aspect I did not
that's true.
understand. It's like the ones that survived, all 5 of them did literally nothing wrong. They're not the ones who sacrificed Vivian. They're not the ones who went crazy and tried murdering each other. They literally just survived. So I never understood like why they just didn't
Do you think it
tell
was the
them,
guilt that because they
like
technically
survivor's
didn't
guilt.
do it? Well, but they didn't technically do it, but they knew about it and
Sure,
didn't
but
do
like what
anything
does
about
that
it.
do for you though? Like it doesn't change anything.
But had they reported it when they came back, maybe like, I don't know.
I
That's all
think
I can think of.
the only thing I could come up with is the fact that it's such a insane, because of the supernatural aspect of it. I feel like nobody would believe them, and I maybe that's why they didn't. Because like nobody would believe that the island was a tit for tat type thing. You give me something, I'll give you something in return. And then they learned that to get off the island, they had to kill someone. And so, but like once again, like, is it because they thought if we say this, no one's going to believe us, and then they're not going to believe us that we weren't the ones who killed her? They're going to be like, oh, it's so convenient that the 2 that are
Right. Because
missing
how do they
are the
prove that?
ones. Like, how do you prove? You can't prove that you didn't do it because the ones who did are there. There's no body to look over. There's no crime scene to investigate. It's your word of mouth. So it's like maybe they just decided no one's going to believe us anyway, so might as well just not say it. And I think that's the only reason I can give, because if I was thinking like these 5 crazy girls come back and say the island possessed these 2 and they're the ones who did it, and the only way for us to get out was to kill someone and they did it, it wasn't us, we just escaped, I'd be like, yo, okay, so
And I think that's exactly it.
yeah, I guess that's it. As far as does that secret protect them? Like obviously not. Like the killer got away with all of this stuff because they were withholding information. But regardless, I feel like even if they did tell them, like it wouldn't change anything. So
Yeah, it was a bit of a mess. I think Barbara really hit the nail on the head with a lot of this, but I think that they didn't think anyone would believe them, like you said, Barbara. I think that they thought if they didn't believe them, then they're gonna be like, oh, so the ones who killed them are the ones that are missing. It's like no, I think we're talking about. You also have to remember we're talking about like high school girls that are trying to not get in trouble, right? At the end of the day. And so I think they concoct this lie to make sure that none of them get in trouble and hope that they can just, you know, a lot of them is just like, let's just get to the end of this senior year so that we can leave and get out of Shady Grove forever. Or
Shitty
that's not the name of
Cove
the town, Shady Cove. And I think that it is as simple as that. I think that's that they were just trying to
survive.
in their minds they were trying to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with, I already like inserted my opinion, I feel like. Yeah, I think that they like Barbara said, nobody didn't feel like they could be believed, but then also maybe they did have some guilt about like what happened, and if there was anything that they could have done, and or just that they didn't want to be blamed for it, and there's no proof. Like it would have been
Right.
difficult to prove that they weren't involved, since they're likely story, you guys are the
Right.
only ones that
Right.
came back
Plus,
alive. So
how do you describe us if it is supernatural or not? If it was actually supernatural, actually happening to them, like how do you describe that? You just sound crazy.
I just feel like if you were to go to like I don't know, you guys live in Florida. If you were to go to the Florida police and be like, yeah, gosh, like there was this woman that was made out of wood, and like she came up out of the water and like made
Right.
us like, they're gonna institutionalize you. They're gonna be like,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
crazy.
They're like, oh, she drowned this swimmer, and then she made this lady kill our friend. It's like,
Yeah, they're
okay,
gonna be like, there's no way.
Evie is often at odds with herself regarding the three girls who didn't make it back. How does her survivor's guilt manifest in her everyday life, and how does it affect her relationship with her father, the former sheriff? I mean, I think that we see before it gets into like, the people start dying and the investigation starts needing to happen. Evie is clearly someone who is suffering from PTSD from what happened on the island. And so I think we see some of the survivor's guilt come out in like bursts of rage and things that maybe wouldn't normally happen. And because of her relationship with her father, I think a lot of that is unfairly targeted at him. I really enjoyed their relationship in the story, mainly because like she was targeting a lot of us at him, and you could tell he understood that it wasn't about him and just was trying to be there in whatever way he can be for his kid. So I think that's, at least for me, that's the main way I saw it, is like I think earlier in this, when Barbara described Evie, she described her as a hothead, and I think that she be like that was probably part of her personality before all this happened, and I think this happening just elevated that to like being like a much more major part of her personality afterwards, and I think that was kind of in some ways a manifestation of her guilt. Like, why am I alive when these three girls didn't make it back?
Yeah, I mean, all of these kids on this island are leaving with PTSD at minimum. And so I think like it's inevitable that she would have survivor's guilt. I think it's gonna impact her everyday life for probably the foreseeable future until she gets some therapy and works through it. But like, I mean, these were presumably, even though some of them weren't as close, like all friends of theirs. Like they were all, you know, kind of a group. And so you're not only processing all of the shit that happened on the island and how traumatic that was, but you're also processing the way that they died and having guilt about that, and the fact that knowing that because they died you then get to leave is going to create even worse survivor's guilt than like a plane crash situation where like people feel guilty for, oh man, like I was just sitting in the right seat, like, and there's guilt with that. So like for this it's amplified because of all of the elements that went down on the island. I feel like yeah, all of them would have some level of that. And I think Michael summarized the thing with her father pretty well. So.
Obviously, like you guys mentioned, like all of them are feeling that sort of way, but I think, like I mentioned earlier, Evie, at least I feel like it, she definitely has this tough girl persona that she puts out, but she is one of those people who actually feels strongly and empathizes really well with people, even if she isn't a fan of them. Because at one point, when her and Sunny find the boat after, and she realizes straight away like Vivian's dead, she could, like, they could have easily just left. They could have easily just left without Gabby, Callie, and Adeline. No, like no one would have blamed them. No one would have known. It would have just been them two. But she literally mentions like, it's not because she's a hero. She says it's not because of this and this. She's like, it's just the right thing to do. So I feel like as much as she pretends that she doesn't care, she really does. And she even mentions, like, I didn't call any of these girls my friends beforehand. I was not close to any of them. But, like, the 42 or however long, like 40 plus days they stayed there, like, she slowly realized, like, it's trauma bonding. Like, they were traumatized together. And that really does kind of, like, it sticks with you. Like, it's a bond that no one else outside of these five girls are going to understand how you're feeling. And so she comes to realize, like, yeah, these are her friends, like, in a weird set of circumstances. And I think the reason why she keeps blaming herself as to why all of this happens. And at first, everyone's like, oh, yes, it must have been Evie who dragged everyone to the island because that makes sense for her character. But it turns out, it was Blake. But I think she feels this way because, like I mentioned earlier, I think she was the deciding factor. I think if she would have said no, then everyone would have listened to her and said, okay, we're not going. But she was the one that everyone looked to and said, okay, if she says yes, we're all going. And that's what happened. And I think she puts the full blame on herself of, like, if I had only said no, like, we wouldn't have been in this predicament anyway, even though Blake is the one who aimed the gun. She's the one who pulled the trigger. And she feels like it's her fault because of that. Like, even though she's not the one who suggested it, she's the one who's like, yes, let's do it, egged them on, even though she didn't. And that's why she feels that way. And obviously she's pushing everyone away because I feel like she just wants to bury this, pretend it didn't happen, and that's the easiest thing to do, because if you look at everyone else, it's like a stark reminder of what happened. And why she takes it on her dad is because her dad thinks, like, I know you're not that person, I know you didn't do these bad things. And it's like just a reminder of, like, she's like, no, but I did all these terrible things, or I let these terrible things happen, or it's all my fault. And my dad telling me it's not true is just like, no, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about.
After returning, the survivors agree to stay away from each other. Do you think that this was a survival tactic or a way to avoid facing the trauma? How does their forced reunion change the way they handle the current threat?
I feel like it was a way to avoid facing their shared trauma, which I feel like we touched on that earlier, or maybe I just did that in my head. But also probably a survival tactic as well, just because they were questioned so, like, fiercely about all the events at Hollow Lake, and they probably didn't want to draw attention back to that time in their lives, like, by being seen together again, which is what ultimately happens once they are reunited, right? Then it kind of reopens, it like rips that band-aid off, and then they have to face everything. I don't know though how much of it was that now after talking about like the whole Appalachian lore, or like a fear that if they, were together, then they would talk about it or acknowledge it, and then like more bad things would happen. So I'm
Yeah.
curious what you guys think on that.
I think obviously it was a way to avoid facing the trauma, because it's like you're constantly reminded of what happened when you look at the person. But I do think this was only for Evie. It seemed like all the other girls were perfectly content with actually still hanging out with each other and bonding over the traumatic experience and still talking about it. And Evie was the one who's like, out of sight, out of mind. I can ignore it. I can pretend it didn't happen to me. I'm going to stuff it down, like bury it deep, deep down and pretend it didn't happen, even though it's like literally affecting her day to day life. So I feel like this was just Evie's survival tactic, because if she didn't think about it, she didn't have to keep reminiscing about what happened. She didn't have to look at them and be like, this is what happened every time I look at you, because she literally did that. It felt like the other girls were completely okay with hanging out with each other because they wanted that. Like, I feel like Evie's the avoidance relationship type of the way she was looking at it versus them. So I feel like this was only for Evie, even though they all agreed to it. I think it's because she was the one who's like, we're doing this and you guys don't get a say. Because at least it felt like that way to me.
So I would agree with what Barbara said. I think that was definitely an Evie thing. I think generally people who go through traumatic events, like, they're bonded through that trauma, and they would not just be like, all right, deuces at the end of it and never see each other again. I think that's how Evie processes her trauma, like Barbara said.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was necessarily what everybody else wanted to do. I mean, in some ways, I guess it was a survival tactic to maybe help them not or dissuade any ideas about, like, there being a deeper story there or something like that. Obviously, their reunion does help them face the current threat because they're able to work together to solve this mystery that only they have the capability of solving. That's my thoughts there. Evie and Sunny's romance is a central light in a very dark story. How did their relationship on the island differ from their relationship back in Shady Cove? Do you think they would have found each other if the tragedy hadn't happened?
Yes. So their relationship, in the island they tried hiding the fact that they were, I feel like, together, or like a budding romance was brewing between them, even though like everyone knew, even the mad woman knew. Like they were not hiding it well, because I think all the other girls kept snickering at them and laughing about it, type thing. As far as how did they differ, I feel like on the island they were pretty much relying on each other for that moral support. Like they were each other's anchor through the whole thing. And I think they probably wouldn't have done as well if they didn't have someone they like truly trusted wholeheartedly throughout the whole process. Especially, at least for Evie, like once again we don't get Sunny's perspective, but we get bits and pieces of it. But like you could truly tell, like they truly relied on each other, they respected each other, and they supported each other, and they were each other's like anchor. Like when Evie had the whole aunt situation, Sunny was the only one who grounded her throughout that whole really freaky process. As far as how their relationship differed, as soon as they got back to Shady Cove, Evie cut Sunny off. And I think it's one of those things where it was Evie's choice. Clearly, Sunny did not want that to happen. She still wanted to be a part of Evie's life, and I think she wanted to continue their relationship. And Evie was like, "Nah, like I'm just gonna cut everything that happened on the island. We're gonna pretend it never happened, and that means you and our romance." And then slowly, Sunny got her, I feel like, to open up and be like okay with the whole thing. As far as if I feel like they would have, I think so, because they like Sunny starts hitting on Evie before they even get on the island. Like they have their whole little like midnight swim that both of them went to secretly that no one else knew about that they did. And so I feel like it just made it like the relationship happen quicker because it kind of just stuck them in a place where they couldn't go anywhere and do anything. I feel like the catalyst of their relationship started with them being in the same room together and bunking together. And that's how that happened. I just feel like this kind of propelled their relationship a lot quicker than it would have happened had them not gotten stuck on the island, kind of forced to live with each other and like really rely on each other. I still think it would have happened because Sunny was like, I want that cookie. So
Wow. Okay. So I mean, obviously the relationship on the island only happens because the island happened, I think. I don't know if they would have had each other had the tragedy not happened because of how Evie is. I mean, maybe there's a timeline where the tragedy didn't happen and Sunny eventually wore Evie down in a non-tragedy situation to fall in love with her, but I think that the tragedy kind of pushed them together in a way that likely wouldn't have happened if nothing bad had happened to them and it all would have been
but
sunlight and
Evie
roses.
was crushing on Sunny even before. She just didn't realize Sunny liked her as well before the
But
island.
Yeah,
had they
but
not been in that situation, would she have had the proximity and the courage to do anything about it?
I think it's the courage. I think Evie didn't have the courage to pursue Sunny.
because Edie was clearly like the person that was like, "Oh, I feel feelings, run, run," and I think that's what would have continued to happen. And maybe Sunny would have persisted. Maybe she would have gotten frustrated, been like, "You know what, no more," and walked away. Who knows? We'll never know. I really enjoyed their romance. I don't like romance usually in stories, but I really enjoyed their story. So
I did too. I thought it was good. I think you guys summed it up well. I do agree. Well, I think that like I don't know that they would have pursued a relationship had they not been in the whole Shady Cove situation or the island situation, because I think it's kind of like in those, I don't know, you think about like reality TV shows or like the things where they take like a subset of people and like stick them on like a, like isolate them to where like, and then inevitably you're going to have people pair off because we're human and that's human nature. And, or, you know, like if you're new in an early relationship and you like just spend so much time together and you talk all the time, like that trauma bonding slash on the front end of just proximity and time spent together, I think allowed for their relationship to form. I don't know that Evie would have had the balls, for lack of a better term, to do much about it if they didn't have such like forced proximity.
The story jumps between the present day murders and the past on the island. How did this structure impact the tension for you? Did knowing who survived make the island scenes more or less stressful? So, I like stories that do this if it's done well. I think that I don't think that the structure impacted the tension because even knowing who survived, I mean, the author does a really good job at being like, "Oh, these 3 girls are missing, but are they? Are they missing? And maybe they're alive. Maybe they're out there like stab, 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 doing crazy stuff." And so because of that, because of how the story is written and the fact that Evie is unreliable as hell as a narrator, it leaves that tension still present even though you have some idea of what might have happened, if that makes sense. So I think knowing who survived doesn't really make those scenes less stressful because there was such an aspect of the unreliability.
Yes, I always enjoy stories that time jump as long as it's done well, which I feel like it was in this case. I also sometimes struggle when I get lost in the audiobook. I felt like this time it does impact the tension, but I also never assumed that just because we didn't get like the dead girl's point of views later on that they were actually dead. I feel like you can never trust these twisty books. So while I presumed that they likely were not a part of the present day situation, like I still reserved in the back of my mind that it could just be author trickery or unreliable narrator.
So I love when a story does this. I'm such a timeline kind of a freak, and I enjoy this thing because I don't like it's a interest. I think it's a cool way to have the story unfold when we're learning like what happened to like why it's affecting present time. So I think if done really well, it's great. And I enjoyed this one. I don't think did the structure impact the tension? I don't think it did because first off, we don't actually know what happened on the island. We truly don't know. We just know they got lost, 5 of them made it out, and we don't know what happened to the 3. We don't know if they died. We don't know if they just were left there. We don't know until like for some of them literally towards the end. And as far as like knowing who survived, we don't know all of the ones who survived until a little bit late. Like it's not on the very first chapter we know these are the 5 girls that survived. We know that Evie did, and I think we knew that Sunny did because she kind of mentions her a bit. We don't know until we get to the chapter where we find out whose body's in the morgue, and we learn that it's Megan, where all the other ones kind of come, except for we're missing like Adeline. So we don't know Adeline, and we don't know. So we don't know about Adeline. We didn't know about Vivian, and we don't know about Blake. So we still don't know the full 5 girls that survived until we get to the chapter where all of them are together. And I think Gabby's like parents' hotel that they're all talking about like who sent us that creepy message that sounds like Vivian's voice. We don't know the 5 that survived. So I don't personally feel like the tension gets removed because once again they don't mention what happened on the island. Like
Right.
Evie makes a very point to just be like, we don't talk about this, I don't think about it. It's just like very vague as to what happened. So I don't think it removes this tension of knowing who made it out of the island because once again you don't know just because you made it out of the island doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Like we didn't learn, like we knew Megan died, but then they're like, well, when we last saw Megan, she was covered in blood, not her blood, but she was covered in blood and she was alive. So then it's like,
Right.
well, what the heck happened between this time and now to where she's dead on this slab here? So I
Right.
think it worked really well. I don't think it removes the tension at all, knowing that.
Did they ever so you mentioned like the Vivian messages. Did they ever
Mhm.
confirm that did Adeline use
AI.
AI to make
Yes.
the okay,
Yep.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, she mentions that she used because she was like, "Oh, Evie, you're right about that. It's super easy to make AI like voice work." She was like, "And you were right. It could have been Blake, but it was actually me because I know how to do it too." And it's like, "Ooh."
Oh, got him. All right, our next question. Evie's dog, Tiger, is a constant companion. What do you think Tiger represents for Evie? Why do you think the author chose to give a character who is so guarded and tough such a soft spot for her dog? I loved Tiger in the book. I really was. Those were my most anxious moments were the chapters from Tiger's perspective after he'd been kidnapped. I think I finally felt
Daunting
how
now.
Barbara feels every time we watch a movie that has an animal in it that she's afraid is about to get
Mm-hmm.
hurt.
Mm-hmm.
For
Mm-hmm.
some reason, in a movie or a TV show, it doesn't get to me. But like for some reason, the perspective of the dog here was just a different level, and it was definitely my most anxious moments in this book. I think Tiger represents safety and comfort and home. I think Tiger is, in all aspects of what the word means, an emotional support animal for Evie. She is a she has this very tough exterior, and I think she feels like Tiger is the one place where she can kind of let down, like take off her armor. And what was really cool about that is that normally, like when you have something like that in a story, you understand it from the character's perspective or from the narrator talking about it, and to understand it from the dog's perspective it was a really unique way to do it, and also a really sweet take when you have the dog talking about how much it loves its owner. I really liked that part. As far as the last part, I feel like I don't know if you guys read the acknowledgments at the end of the book or not, but I did,
I did.
and it's kind of cheating to know why. But the author Tiger is such a main part of this book because the author, while she was writing this book, was in this like it was in the last phases of her own dog's life.
Oh,
She
I
had a
didn't know that.
15-year-old dog who was facing down their own mortality, and she decided that she was going to dedicate the book to her dog, and that there would be a dog character that played a big role in honor of her dog as well. Her dog was Samson, I believe, was his name, and so that I think is why she, whether like Evie is like some representation of the author, I don't know, but I think Tiger is a representation of the author's dog, which makes it even more special, I think, too.
Well, I think that you summed that up pretty pretty well. I don't know what else to add about Tiger. Tiger was the goodest boy, and I would have been very upset had anything happened to Tiger. And I'm judging you a little bit, Michael, for not being sad in movies when dogs die. But I'm glad you at least were sad or were worried about Tiger in this because I don't know.
Genuinely, if Adeline, or I guess we didn't know Adeline at the time, if the killer had hurt Tiger, I would have been like, I don't care who the killer is. I want them like hung up by their flesh at the end of this. Like,
Dang. Yes, well, I feel like yeah, I always get sad when animals are involved, but I thought the addition of Tiger was awesome. I liked the scenes where we got glimpses of Tiger, and I feel like I did not read the acknowledgments at the end, so knowing that makes it even better.
I think Michael pretty much nailed it. Like, it is, Evie is quote unquote this tough person, like I mentioned earlier. I think she puts out this persona, but Tiger is the one person where I feel like she feels comfortable and safe enough to just be herself, and she's this little pile of goo who absolutely cares so much for Tiger. And I think they have this bond because it's like she rescued, because he's a rescue, she rescued him, and the whole he rescued her dynamic is like 100% played out in their relationship, where you can see like they relied on each other, and like she's fiercely loyal to him and he's fiercely loyal to her, and she would obviously literally do anything. Like, the last thing she wants to do is go back to this island, and Adeline knew how much she loved her dog, and was the only way to get her back on the island was to do something to him to force her to go. And she was right. She read her like a freaking book. Like, yeah. And I am Evie. Evie is me. I would 100%, like, I would go through hell to save my animals. So I get it. And I think that's just like, I think it was just the author's love for her own pet that came off on this book. And it was, you can easily tell, like, her bond that she has with her dog. I don't want to specify like animal, just because it can be a dog, cat, bird, horse, whatever, like pet, rabbit. Everyone feels that spot for your animal that you care so much about. And I think it was just to also show that Evie actually does have that soft side. She just doesn't let a lot of people see it.
yeah. All right, we're getting down to the end here, folks. What did you think of the ending? Was the price the island demanded for freedom fair, quote unquote, fair, in the context of the story? And how did you feel about where Evie and Sunny ended up by the final page?
I liked the ending in the sense that I felt like it was well written. I felt like it, left enough ambiguity but wasn't like a huge like unresolved situation. I feel like fair might not be the word that I would choose, but I do feel like they needed to revisit the island and take accountability for what happened there, like to get closure, I guess, in a sense of because they all just basically like the survivors came back and then they all coped so differently and like nothing ever was really said again, and so I felt like that part needed to happen. I don't think that the island demanding like blood for blood situation is fair, but also what's fair about like a friggin'
Right.
island where like I don't think that that fairness really is a factor there. I felt like as far as Evie and Sunny goes, I felt like that they ended up on what I would say would be realistic terms. Like it wasn't like they had like this fairy tale like happy ever after type vibe, but I feel like that their relationship ended on like a hopeful note, I would say. Like that they could, I don't know. I felt like it was well done. It wasn't overdone. It wasn't like do I want more closure? Sure, because I that's just my personality. Do we know if she's gonna write another one or no?
For this,
I think
I
it's
don't
just a
think so. This is
standalone.
a
Standalone.
Yeah.
standalone. Yep. Yep.
So then I want a Q&A with the author so I
Right.
can get some more answers. But
Should we reach
it's
out to her
just
representative, Lauren, see if we can get
we
her on the
should
pod so you can ask her
we
questions,
should
drill
because we're
down on some
such
of
a
this?
big time podcast that she would come on.
She would definitely jump at the
She would jump at the
bullet.
opportunity. It'd be great for her PR.
So what did I think of the ending? I feel like it was a little abrupt, only in the sense that like I wanted more, like Lauren mentioned, but like I understand how do you end a novel like this? Like like I feel like regardless of what happens, I'm never going to be satisfied because it's like it's one of those stereotypical like horror stories. Like how do you end that? Like the the horrors have like the horrors continues, but so do they type thing. Like Evie even mentions like, yes, we caught the killer, the island's still there, the island's always going to be a part of them, they're just going to have to keep on trucking along because it happened to them. She can't she I think it ended in a sense that she finally made peace with the fact that what happened to them, and she can't just keep bearing it down. Like she has to acknowledge that this happened to her, and I think that's the best I can hope for her at this point. And like maybe she can finally just acknowledge that it happened. You don't have to be like, okay, it's resolved. Like that, obviously that's not how that works. When something traumatic happens to you, you just don't snap and be like, okay, I'm over it. Like it's always going to affect you. You just have to learn how to manage. And I think that's how it ended. Obviously I wanted more. Like what happened, like Adeline, I can't remember, is Adeline an adult? Is she trialed as an adult? Like what happens to her? Can you plead insanity? Like I would be very curious to know like what happens with all of this stuff. As far as the island demanding freedom for fair, like it's never going to be fair. Like the island is not a fair character. It's hard to say, like obviously not. That's like that's like being like, hey little children, do you want some candy? And then you go and get the candy and be like, haha, now you're dead. It's your own dang fault. Like why did you fall for my candy trap? It's like what? Like
Sounds
no.
like a pretty fair situation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, like that wasn't fair, but like the island isn't fair. It's this whole thing of I feel it's very stereotypical of the real world. But anyways, how did Evie and Sunny end? I mean, it ended on like Lauren mentioned, like it's a hint of maybe now Evie can move forward with her life, because I definitely think like as much as she thought she was moving forward, she was still reliving the past and not allowing herself to let go and move forward.
So I liked the ending. I thought it did a really good job wrapping up the story. I think that there's some extra like bookkeeping stuff that we could have gotten, but I don't think in the grand scheme of things would have added anything to it.
I mean, we
Like
don't
to
know what happened
know,
to Callie and Gabby. Like, did Callie get over the fact that she's scared of swimming?
I
The
don't know.
love that she had for swimming. We don't know what happened with that. We just
We
know that
don't.
Gabby was okay. We don't know what else happens to her. Like, I would have liked to
Yeah,
know.
you gotta put those pieces together in your own head. I thought I did. I thought the story wrapped things up nicely. Obviously, like I said, there's some other bookkeeping things that could have happened, but I think that the way that the author chose to end it was good. I don't think. I mean, to leave here, you must kill one of your friends. Like that's not a fair bargain. Like to leave somewhere, you have to murder someone. No, I don't think that's fair. I think that there's lots of situations where maybe like the island would have demanded like learn something about yourself and become greater than you were. But no, to murder one of your companions and I will let you leave. Like no, that's not fair. It's BS. I liked where Evie and Sunny ended up. I think it wasn't anything definitive, but it was a hopeful glint at what might be to come. I think that the story ends with Evie in a better place, and I choose to hope that in that better place that her and Sunny figure out how to have a life together if that's what they want. All right, guys. Final question. The island and the Mad Woman seem to demand a price for freedom. In the flashback sequences, how did the girls' perception of the Mad Woman shift from a spooky campfire story to a legitimate threat that required them to make impossible choices?
I think that's the whole story of the island, is the fact that they get there. Blake doesn't believe that they're on the island. None of them were like, oh, okay, like all of these things were just campfire stories, not really true, and then slowly but creepily they figure out like what the island wants from them. And like I said, I think the pivotal moment was when Callie almost drowned. They saw the mad woman next to her, and then they got the thing that they needed from, like, that the island kept, quote unquote, keeping away from them. And then I think that's when they realized what they would have to do. And unfortunately, Blake and Megan decided for the group and decided Vivian was the choice that they had to make, which I think is funny because, like, they literally did that, but they're the two that didn't leave the island. So it's like, so why did you end up doing that if the whole point was you just wanted to hang out on the island anyways? But I think it makes me lean into the fact that I do think that was happening. It wasn't just in their heads. I do believe all of that happened to them was a supernatural aspect of the book. I feel like the island showed them, like, these are your choices. If you want to get out of here, you have to do it. And then they did. And I guess luckily for the rest of the 5, they could escape from it. But yeah, oof.
What if what if the ending would have been like the federal government coming in and saying, "Yeah, the island is closed off. There's a chemical leak that we're not able to
Oh
control,
my
and
gosh, that would have made so much
it
sense.
causes crazy hallucinations
I think that
and
would be a cheap.
madness."
I think it would be a cheap way out.
Yeah, but I would like that closure though.
I don't know. I like the supernatural aspect, but like I said, like, it's up to us, the readers, to interpret whether that actually
Yeah,
happened. All of this actually happened to them, or they were just driven to insanity, being out there with not a lot of food, not a lot of water, and just this constant, like, what the heck is happening?
that's true. I mean, I think that in some ways you get to witness all of them go a little bit mad as the story progresses, since like Barbara was saying, you know, they don't believe they're on the island, and then it's like, oh, spooky ghost stories, and like that's why they want to go. And I don't know, it evolves from like this, like, let's go scare ourselves, like, teenagers going to like the quote unquote haunted house in town, to like genuine genuine threat and dread. And honestly, it gets there pretty fast, which I think was kind of cool, like to see like that, how the escalation hit. Obviously their perception changed very quickly when they've realized that, holy crap, is this real? We're all seeing this. Did that just happen? And so it makes for a really interesting story, but it also increases this incredibly dysfunctional group of teenage girls camaraderie in a situation where they otherwise wouldn't have had that, other than the fact they were staying in the same cabin at a sleepaway camp.
Yeah, I think I don't have a whole lot to add. I think that the whole thing starts as a spooky campfire story that you're like, they're gonna go there and maybe like things might happen. But I thought ultimately, I think my thought was that it was going to be a person, like a killer, which it kind of was, but I wasn't anticipating the level of like supernatural question marks that were happening with it, and like the whole possession and like the island driving them mad. I thought it was going to be like maybe somebody on the island that's actually doing all of this, and that's the big mystery, is that there's like a serial killer and like nobody can catch them kind of vibe. So I think, yeah, I mean, the whole Mad Woman being, in my mind, real, like they were experiencing something as a shared experience that they were seeing, that was requiring them to like do all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I feel like my perception had to shift as the story shifted. And yeah, I like the ambiguous ending to an extent, but also I like it when I have answers still.
Well, we did it. We made it to the end of another episode. Let's talk about our individual scores. Barbara, what did you give this one?
Give it a 8.5 for all the reasons above. I don't want, you know why. So 8.5.
If you've been listening up to this point, you know
Right.
why Barbara gave it an 8.5.
You
And you also know why I gave it an 8.
Yes, I gave it a 9 because I feel like I'm usually pretty critical, but while I was reading it, like I really didn't find anything that I hated, or like I feel like usually I'm like, oh, I liked it, but there really was no, like, pacing was good, characters were good, plot was good, so good.
And if you're a new listener right now, you have to understand Lauren giving a book a 9 is like Barbara and I giving a book like a 23 out of 10.
Okay, that's a little over, but I am
You've
more.
been more lenient lately. I'm sure.
I have
You
been.
have.
Well, that's
You have.
because I get judged, so I gotta be nice.
Like always, make sure you're following Badass Literature for free in your favorite podcast app. Give us a rating, leave us a review if they allow you to. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. Our handle is Badass Lit Pod on Instagram and Facebook.
Have feedback about today's episode? Contact us by writing to badassliteraturesociety@gmail.com. You can also send us a DM or leave a comment on any of our social media handles.
As always, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. I'm Michael.
I'm Barbara.
I'm Lauren.
Ignore the calling from the mad woman.
Right?
Leave her be. Bye.
Bye.